I'm just going to introduce everyone to our topic tonight. It's Alberta for our Monday meetup with the Alberta Craft Council. And I'd just like to start things off by doing a land acknowledgement and acknowledging that Alberta is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. Those of us joining from Alberta are on the traditional lands referred to as Treaty 6, 7, and 8 territories, and all of us are beneficiaries of these peace and friendship treaties. The Alberta Craft Council is dedicated to ensuring that the spirit of these treaties is honored and respected, and that we hope as individuals you join us in committing to learning, listening, reflecting, and taking actionable steps in truth and reconciliation, and by celebrating the many creative and talented Indigenous craftspeople in our regions. And now I would like to pass things on to our host for the evening. Jill Allen, our exhibition coordinator, is joining us from the Alberta exhibition in Edmonton.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us this evening. And to the artists that are present, thank you so much for your beautiful works in our exhibition. We've had lots of great comments from the public who've really enjoyed seeing your work, and we're excited to be showing it in Calgary in the new year. I just want to welcome you all and thank you for being here. We want to recognize our sponsor this evening, Wild Birds Unlimited Nature Shop. That's a photograph of Erin, who owns the store with her husband, Jordan. Erin's been kind enough to support the exhibition financially and also in person as a wonderful presenter. She's guided tours at Lois Hole Provincial Park in St. Albert, describing the bird life that the tour group witnessed there. And she's also come into the exhibition to give a guided tour of the species on view here in Alberta. So we're really grateful to Erin for all her support and encourage you to check out Wild Birds Unlimited. It's a fantastic shop, fantastic business. So we're going to start off the evening with a PowerPoint. We have a couple of artists that are going to talk a little bit about their work. And then I have some images of the exhibition as it's installed in Edmonton to share with you. So I think what I'll do now is just share my screen and get that PowerPoint going, and we can start the talk.
That's me.
Okay, so it sounds like you guys are seeing my screen.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and now I just have to figure out how to play this. Sorry, everyone. There it is, it's hiding. Okay, and so I'm just gonna remind the artists that are speaking that if you could please just prompt me when it's time to change the slide to the next slide, that'd be great. Is everything okay with the view of my screen? Okay, I'm gonna mute myself somehow.
These are my pictures, so I guess I get to go first. And thanks so much, Jill, for all your arranging on this. And it's nice to meet everybody too. I'm pretty new to this, so it's nice to be here tonight. My name is Wendy Passmore Godfrey, and I'm in my day job, I'm the executive director of WP Puppet Theatre and the creator and performer of our productions. And I could speak at length on puppetry, but that's my day job. Puppetry is an umbrella for many art genres, writing, music, video, sculpture, in all the materials, all different kinds of materials. And I'm a little bit good in all of those things. And so that informs my visual art practice, even though it's an emerging practice. So the first sculptural birds I made are pictured up here. They were part of a book arts exhibit called Pulp Paper Pages for the Alberta Craft Council that went to Wonju, South Korea back in 2013. as part of the Hanji Paper Festival. So I don't know if there's anyone else that was part of that, but it was a lot of fun. Some of us went over to Korea as well to be part of the exhibit when it went there. And this piece here is called On the Occasion of Some Birds Finding Release from the Pages of Heath and Marshlands. So it's a very long title for a piece of book arts. Next slide, please. So this kind of grew to my bird series that I've created. Little sculptures made from paper and ephemera that perch on a stash of piano keys. And Jill, if there's another slide coming up, we could show that. And they use a lot of the same techniques that I do in my puppet building, except there's more details. And I'm not seeing the next slides yet, so I don't know what's happening there. But being time conscious, I'll just carry, oh, there they are. There's duet. So I think of these as little static puppets that are animated in the audience's imagination versus like by me up on stage. And as such, there is such latent potential for all sorts of action. Although of course their attitude and posture and color kind of suggest a story, which I like to tell in like a little micro artist statement. So these two birds are called duet, and they're supposed to be singing a duet, but they don't look like they're concentrating. I've got other birds in my life as well. This is a show that we've been working on for the last year or so. And that little bird there is called Baxter, and the mouse, the bird is called Bird, and the mouse is called Baxter. And so we've been filming it over the last year, and in January, it will launch as an interactive website with puppet making projects and games and more. And so here's me in this totally flattering green screen suit. It was a real total learning curve, like actually everything else in my life. Even being part of this Craft Council exhibition was a learning curve. So thank you so much for inviting me to speak tonight, and for having me in your exhibit.
I'm just going to interject for a second because I'm having a few technical difficulties. Sorry, everyone. Can you confirm that you can see the image on the screen? You don't have a chat box right in front of it? I can't find my mouse.
Yeah, we can see the image of the exhibition.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to show Wendy's piece in the exhibition as it looks in Edmonton to round out her talk. And thank you so much, Wendy. It was really fascinating to hear about your puppet activities and your work. Thanks for sharing those.
You're welcome.
All right, next is Tina Dickerson.
Hello there. Wendy's my new hero. I would love to do puppetry. It's amazing. I will get started. So my name is Tina Dickerson. I'm a metal artist from rolling hills of rural central Alberta. I'm just east of Red Deer. So on our little acreage, we have a lot of birds, from our friendly little chickadees to the finches, flickers, nuthatches, red-winged blackbirds. And my husband and I are dedicated jelly butlers to several breeding pairs of Baltimore Orioles every summer. But my favorite bird on the property is the owls. So you can hear great horned owls almost every night. And in the spring, they often nest near our house and raise their little owlets. This photo is of the two owlets that were born during COVID. Please rest assured that this photo was taken from a distance and I cropped in on it. I was mindful I didn't want to stress out mama or the babies. Though casual bird watching was a daily occurrence in my house, during COVID, we became full-time bird nerds and we went on hikes over to check out this nest with these owlets pretty frequently. Birding became our reason to go outside during COVID, and looking for birds was like going on a beauty hunt, specifically looking for ways to enjoy the outdoors during a time that was a little bit bleak. We took hundreds of photos of birds during this time, and this is one of my favorites. These little ones were so, okay, Nikolai. Okay, there we go. So I responded to the ACC Alberta call first because I love birds, and secondly because I was delighted to see that other people were also getting excited about birding and connecting more to nature during our COVID lockdown time. This sculpture is the one that I submitted. So you can see that it's an owl, which seemed to be quite popular during the exhibition. And this sculpture has an owl's 3 faces facing in different directions around the head, and then the head is on a female torso. The sculpture is called Guidance, and it was inspired when I was looking for a direction in my life. I was given a teaching that I needed to stop asking for guidance and instead listen to the guidance that was already being provided. I needed to act like an owl. I needed to listen carefully and look all around me for the guidance that I needed to help me find my direction in life. So every time I see an owl, I'm reminded of this lesson. This sculpture is bronze. It sits on a poplar base, and the patina is liver of sulfur and ferric nitrate. If you want to look at the next slide, please. So this is the foundry that I cast the sculpture in. So in addition to being a 25-year practicing metalsmith, I also work in the visual arts department at Red Deer Polytechnic, where I began as a technician and now I'm an instructor and learning designer. I'm also a doctoral student at the University of Calgary, where my research focus is on creative development and well-being in adult education. So you can see in this photo, this is the teaching foundry at the Polytechnic, where students get to bronze cast in first and second year. And it's really exciting for me to see first year students safely and competently pour 90 pounds of molten bronze at a time. So you can see 2 students pouring there. This is the technique that we specialize in this foundry is called lost wax casting. And this is a technique that I've been working in for over 20 years in my own, specialize in vacuum casting techniques for jewelry and small sculpture. So lost wax casting is an ancient technique. Beautifully refined bronze castings were cast as early as 7,000 years ago in China, followed by stunning early Egyptian casters. And then even early Greek smiths worked around 500 BCE. So though the materials have developed and the scales increased, the casting technology and terminology has not changed much since then. In this process, a wax model is sculpted and then it's encased in either layers of ceramic or plaster. And then the mold is heated up to melt out the wax. Oh, actually, I have a wax of the owl here. You can see it's just brown foundry wax. So after the void is the wax is melted out of the mold, molten metal is poured into that void, and then the bronze casting is finished through a series of grinding, sanding, and polishing and patina steps. So this photo is from the bronze pour where I cast the owl sculpture for this exhibition, and the sculpture was cast in the Red Deer Polytechnic foundry, and then I finished it in my own studio. If you want to finish on the last slide, Jill. I was delighted to be able to show my work in the Alberta exhibition. And I'd like to take this time to just thank Jill for organizing us and thank the ACC for hosting all of these amazing creative works. It was a delight. Thank you.
That's me. So this is, I'm Jennifer Yanis. I work in Calgary, Alberta. I graduated from 2016 with a major in sculpture with honors. And this piece started shortly after I graduated. This was at a embroidery party. I think I had recently gotten this really big embroidery hoop and I figured I might do something really big. So I decided to do Burger Bird, which is a raven that's eating a hamburger. I mostly kind of just start as the exercise in lightheartedness and humor, just because it was silly and nonsensical. So I started it with that, and then over the years I picked away at it a little bit at a time. I started with the eye on the bird, and then I worked on the burger. So if you go to the next slide, then you can see the burger's a little bit more finished. I still have that outline going. It's sat in my house off to the side for quite a while. And then during COVID, I didn't have a ton of other work going on, so I decided to pick it up again. You go to the next slide. Then this was shortly before it was finished. This was me attaching the cotton background that it was originally embroidered onto the gold satin that is the main base first. So during COVID, I started making sure I went on more walks, and while I was doing that, I came to enjoy the antics of the local crows and ravens that are around my apartment. And then while I went on a research trip to Scotland in August, and while I was there, when I got onto the very top of Ben Nevis, which is the highest peak in the UK, it was a very difficult hike, and I got to the very top, and just as I got to the plateau, a raven cawed right at me, and they were swooping and diving and playing in the air currents, and it was really beautiful. So as this piece started out with just an idea of humor and fun, it kind of changed as I thought about how some of the local food that's easy for these scavengers to find is the fast food that we leave behind on the side of the road. And I don't know if there's another picture after this one, but yeah, there's the final piece. It's on 4 layers of flexi-firm interfacing that have a different color of the satin on each layer of the interfacing, and each color reflects some of the thread that I used in the main embroidery piece. That's about it.
Tracy, you're up next. Tracy Cameron. There she is. Awesome.
Tracy, sorry, you're muted. No, I don't think we can hear you.
Tracy, do you want to jump out and try jumping back in? Maybe we can skip to the next artist slides and come back to you. We definitely want to hear from Tracy. Everyone, don't look, no. Let's see if we can get Tracy unmuted, but in the meantime, we can go to Annette Tankata.
Hello, can you hear me okay? Hello, can everybody hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Thanks, Annette.
Okay, great. Okay, awesome. Hello, everybody. I, like everyone else, I'm very thrilled about this opportunity that the Craft Council has given us all. I love birds, but I started off as a graphic artist. I had a career as a graphic artist before coming to clay, and I started in sculpture doing the human form. And that lasted for several years, all through my study and also through residency at Medelta. But somehow I changed my focus from the human form to animal form. And I think the reason is that I was just so surrounded by wildlife, it felt like, when I was living in Medicine Hat. I've been there for 10 years now. And so there was just so much wildlife to enjoy here, and I felt like they were very connected to life, to everyday life, like seeing deer all the time here, and many birds, of course, lots of backyard birds. But for this show, for this Alberta show, I decided to focus on the western meadowlark. It's a bird that I wasn't familiar with before moving here to Alberta. And I have to say, I kind of fell in love with this bird. I would see this bird, it would never come to the backyard, but it would often be there kind of in a field, an open field. And the song was always the first thing that struck me. And I love to sing myself. And I love to sort of listen to the song of birds and try to kind of call back or try to imitate it. But I found that the Western meadowlark had this song that was just so hard to imitate. And it almost sounds like some experimental jazz bird. I don't know. but I really love this bird. And when the call for Alberta came up, I have to say I was pretty overexcited because I love making birds, and it was hard to narrow it down to a piece. I had lots of different ideas, but the Western meadowlark to me seemed like the most reflective of my experience here, and also a bird that I just admired so much. So I put some Western boots on this bird, and well, that's partially just to identify it from the Eastern meadowlark, of course, but also I like to include garb, like clothing. It's a way to just make more of a connection with an audience and hopefully inject some humor and some compassion for what you see in front of you. Yeah, and you can go to the next slide. I thought I would show the process of how I make most birds. So I start with a pinch pot, and then I take that pinch pot and start to narrow the wall. So you can go to the next slide. And so then once I get the walls as narrow as I can, I kind of close the piece. And you can see that I've scored the edges, and I'm going to close the piece, trying to trap the air inside. And the next piece, the next slide. Then I really carefully connect the two pieces together, making sure to seal all of the air inside. And that is so that when I paddle it, which is the next picture there, the air is trapped inside, and I'm using compression, which is something clay loves, of course. So the compression is happening because the air is trapped inside. And then I paddle it until it becomes smoother. And next slide. Oh, there it is. There's a little Western meadowlark in the corner there. So yeah, I just wanted to show a little bit of the process. That's the way I make birds that are standing. But I've also recently, I'll just show you, I'm making birds that are flying. Yay! So here's one. Ooh. Anyway, that's it. I'm really pleased to be a part of this show, and thank you so much for the opportunity, everybody.
Okay, I'm going to fast forward, just ignore me for a second, and then we'll come back to Tracy. Tracy, are you with us?
I think I'm here.
I can hear you. Okay,
Yay.
hang on, everyone. Sorry to do this. I'll just be a second. Oh, go on. Okay, take it away.
Okay, so my name is Tracy Cameron. I'm a textile artist based out of Calgary. I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background about me. I grew up with parents who were constantly making things. My mom was a hobby seamstress and was always sewing, crafting, or redecorating our house. My dad was a DIY handyman, and he taught me to build and fix everything and anything. So that really informed how I see the world and spawned on my love of creation early. Even though I love to build and create things, I never really thought of myself as an artist. I went to U of C for 2 years with the intention to major in marine biology, as I love nature and animals, and I think that really informs my work now. But studying science really didn't feel right for me. So I switched fields and schools and applied to ACAD. It took me a little bit of time to get accepted there. I got rejected the first time. I went traveling. I worked on my portfolio. But eventually I was successful, and I studied graphic design there. And I think it was in my last year of school that I really developed a fascination with birds. It was a little bit about an innate sense of freedom as I wanted to travel again. But as I got more into it, I really started to fall in love with their color, their shape, the diversity in them. So when I heard about the Alberta Craft Council's Alberta exhibition, I knew it was a perfect fit for me. So after I graduated from ACAD, I started to experiment with fabrics and began creating soft sculptures. In the next slide, if you can go to that. You can see some of them in the background of the first photo. I started making little pigeons, little owls, large-scale dandelions and flowers, but space quickly became an issue in my studio. So I decided to experiment with working flat. I really like the results. So in 2019, I started the piece that's featured in the exhibition, my pigeon sketches. They're small scale, quick studies of little pigeons, and I wanted to incorporate a lot of color and texture to show the diversity in these little birds and how beautiful they can be. But you can see in the shots of my studio, my boxes and boxes of fabrics. I really think of myself as a bit of a hoarder. I can't pass up any beautiful piece of fabric I see, and I'm starting to get a little bit of a problem. My boxes are completely full, but they're really my palette. So I like to have as much diversity in everything that I can use. So if you go to the next slide. This is a shot of a magpie series that I started creating during COVID. I wanted to incorporate a little more paint into my work, and I started painting on organza with acrylic fabric dyes, and I would cut those out and layer them within the fabrics. And then I also wanted to focus a little bit more on quilting. So I layer polyester batting behind the backing of my pieces, and I'll sew in a graphic pattern to kind of give a more textural nature and more dimension to my pieces. They'll often contain 5 or 6 layers of fabric, so they get really hard to sew. And if you go to the next slide. This piece is called Pigeon Number 6, a very creative title, but it's one of 6 pieces of large-scale pigeons that I've created since doing my sketch series. In this one, I started to incorporate more volume though. So I really started to play with pleats and folds and lots of layering, a little bit of see-through fabrics and laces and textures, just to kind of give you the appearance of volume, and just to I guess going back to my sculpture roots, I guess is what you'd say. But at the moment, I'm currently taking a break from my studio practice. I'm renovating my house and adding an income suite. So I hope to be back in the studio in January, and I'm kind of thinking of this as a little bit of an incubation period for me, and to figure out where my artistic practice will go. But I know birds will be a part of it for sure, just maybe a little more abstract in the future. But that's me.
Thanks, Tracy. And thanks everyone for sharing about your work tonight. I can totally relate to the idea of feeling like you're a hoarder because of the state of my garage as we speak. Between my husband and I, we're both creative people, and we can't stand to leave some good material to waste. So we collect them all. And I think it would be really fun for the Craft Council to organize a swap meet so we can all exchange beautiful bits and pieces. I also have a pile of beautiful fabrics. So Tracy, maybe we should connect and I can unload them on you instead. All right, I just want to show you guys some images of the exhibition. As you know, Alberta put a bird on it. We had a fantastic response to this call. We met all sorts of new artists from across Alberta, lots of new faces. I think there were about 100 people that applied for this call, and we had to narrow it down to 60 one, and that was difficult. There was so much great work. And this is an image of Esther Newfield's pelican, and he's articulated, he moves and flaps his wings. This is Louise McFadden's Magpie Marauders work. It's one of the first pieces you see when you come into the gallery downstairs. And here we have the title wall with Scott Van Sand and Tracy Cameron's pigeons. Here we have some work from folks in Calgary and Edmonton. This is in the middle of the gallery. And here we have what we refer to as the owl wall. We got lots of great owls for the exhibition. And it was such a fun installation, observing all the beautiful works and all the beautiful details in the birds. You know, as admirers of birds, their feathers and markings are so glorious and detailed and fine. And we found so many of your works to possess those qualities. So these last two slides are on our north-facing wall in the feature gallery in Edmonton. And we had such a great variety of materials, glass and felt and ceramics, lots of fiber works, and metal. So we had a great representation of all the wonderful craft media. And I don't know how many folks were able to get into Edmonton to see the exhibition, but I hope that if you couldn't see the exhibition, at least our pictures of the installation are enjoyable for you to look at.